Well, the fear is after that heartbreaking loss to Oregon, Penn State's going to spiral out of control. But that's not as much of a concern when UCLA continues to act like a JV team.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is right. It is a Locked On crossover to talk Penn State and UCLA, the game that everybody cares about. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer of Locked On UCLA. And thank you so much for checking out this crossover episode and making us your first listen and watch of the day. We're going to give you our predictions, keys to the game. Is there any potential that UCLA pulls off the unthinkable and upsets still a competitive college football playoff caliber Penn State team? We're going to give you the scouting reports because so much has changed about UCLA that you need to keep up on a day-to-day basis. That's why Zach over at Locked On UCLA is great with daily coverage. But just beginning with all of this, the game, Penn State coming off of a heartbreak and UCLA being what it is with all of the coaching changes.
It was a heartbreak too, Zach. It was a heartbreak. It was just Northwestern.
Yeah, it was, and New Mexico and UNLV. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So I'm really interested, Zach, in where Penn State is going to be mentally to fly across the country. Everything that you put, I would like to think that Penn State put every amount of energy into that Oregon game. It didn't look like it at times, but still, to go from the high of the whiteout game to now a UCLA team that is just an absolute shambles, to say the least. I don't know how much I am expecting Penn State to really get up for this game, if I'm being honest.
I think this is a game where Penn State clearly plays down to their competition. This is one where it's an emotional letdown. You're really traveling for the first time all season. UCLA is in a unique spot because if they are a real program, this is an opportunity to steal one, right? If UCLA, rose-colored lenses, they had everything going right, this is the perfect opportunity to steal one from Penn State. Whether they beat Oregon or whether they had lost to Oregon like they did, this is the perfect opportunity to go beat a team like Penn State and steal one and have Penn State lose 2 in a row. Now, UCLA is clearly in disarray. So the difference is this game going to be more of a 30-point beatdown, or is it going to be a backdoor cover by UCLA? I'm not entirely sure. But if UCLA was really put together, this would be a golden opportunity, a blowout, sellout crowd. That's not where it is. So it's more just Penn State want to win this game by 3 touchdowns or by 5.
Well, and put it into perspective, too, because I saw a headline today, or at least someone pointing out the fact that UCLA players still have the opportunity to redshirt. Now, this is something that you and I confirmed doesn't seem to be a concern, but from the outside perspective, that players could maybe entertain the fact. I mean, UCLA might be missing some of its starters in this game against Penn State. So what's kind of the perspective there that, okay, you're firing coaches, you're changing staff members day in and day out, and then all of a sudden players could decide that, you know what, I'm going to redshirt and hit the portal.
The big news is that UCLA just changed their offensive coordinator, mutually parting ways with Tino Sunseri, who was supposed to be a young genius coming in, getting his first crack as play caller at UCLA. So I wonder if that's going to mean anything offensively. The biggest name everybody wants to look at and point at would be Nico, but Nico's already burned that redshirt year, and no matter how many which ways you can sue the NCAA, there's no way he's getting another redshirt year. And I'm not saying that's something he's exploring, but that's the biggest name that people look at as he would try. Maybe he could do something. It's not going to happen. Anybody impactful that could do so hasn't really played that well. So I think if we're looking at it, they need to give young guys opportunities. So whoever's starting might be better coming off the bench or provide the same production. I haven't heard too much about guys with a complete overhaul quitting. It's not like we've seen that so far, I think, in other programs. I think UCLA will be able to completely field the team. It's whether they can be and deserve to be on the same field with Penn State at this point.
And that's where I look at it from Penn State's point of view, is just how much interest, how much intrigue do you have in this game? I mean, sure, you can be angry. The fans are saying, fire your head coach. A guy that Penn State players still defend. They will go to bat for James Franklin. But I just can't imagine how much interest there is in playing a UCLA team that I guess they are going to overlook because they think and they know that they can beat them pretty soundly. But I don't know that there's that extra motivation. It's kind of demoralizing to lose to Oregon the way that you did in the whiteout. And again, to fly across the country like that in a game that just doesn't really have any juice. I mean, the Rose Bowl is going to be empty? It's going to be mostly Penn State fans, I imagine.
Yeah. This game was, pretty expensive with the Penn State, if you look at the secondhand prices, and then even those tickets dipped, and you're like, well, as much as Penn State's going to come, it's going to be a blowout. This is the first opportunity for UCLA students to come watch a game because UCLA is on the quarter system. So they didn't get in school until after those first few games. So if they want to check out this Bruins team, I highly doubt they will. With the travel from Westwood to Pasadena, it'll be empty and there might not be juice. What do you think is this compared to last year's game when the Bruins went with the backup quarterback? Similar record, although the Bruins had a win at that point in, Beaver Stadium.
I can't imagine. I mean, that one, at least for a lot of alumni, there was interest, but now it's kind of a been there, done that. And you mentioned the ticket prices, right? That's something that has been a common point of emphasis here is that, hey, Penn State wants fans and donors to invest in the program. This was, honestly, I think this was the most expensive game for a Penn State fan in history. The ticket prices were astronomical. This includes bowl games as well. So to drop potentially thousands of dollars per ticket, $1,000 for a nosebleed ticket, and then say, hey, we still want your support, fans show up. If you're not local to California, are you really necessarily making that cross-country trip with the team to, let's watch comfortably on CBS. Why not? Seems like a better option.
And the other thing is, Seyko, is that the UCLA fans, as cheap as those tickets are, they're still overpriced in some aspects for what the program's put out there. I've seen some things where they're charging students what could be an astronomical price for a student that's going to college that has to get to UCLA or get to the Rose Bowl. I think that's overblown going from Westwood to the Rose Bowl, but that's their own problem. But it's still, UCLA hasn't put on a product where you got to jump ticket prices. The prices have jumped significantly for this game. So obviously it's not the thousands of dollars that you might have gone for a whiteout, which I think is worth it, double overtime win or loss. But, Penn State fans can speak it to themselves. The atmosphere alone speaks to it. UCLA, it's like, you just want people here cheering on your team for what is a top 5, top 10 caliber team coming to the Rose Bowl. That should be at least 70% full, not just a ghost town during Halloween season.
Well, we're going to get into the X's and O's of it because there is still a game to be played. Penn State is a heavy favorite. We're going to talk about that, get into our predictions later on, keys to the game as well. And could UCLA do the unthinkable, pull off an upset? That is all on the way here on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. $5 and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, you can try player props, or even follow live lines during the game. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. And lines are available for Penn State versus UCLA. Yes, over at FanDuel, Penn State is a heavy favorite, minus 25.5 on the spread in favor of Penn State, minus 4,000 on the money line, plus 1,400 if you're thinking the Bruins, and the total is set at 50.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And if you are a new customer, if you bet $5, and if that $5 bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets. And this episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home. Whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years, these businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Sports are something that bring neighborhoods together. Whether it's gathering for game day rituals or celebrating the best wings in town or just being a part of a fan base that calls the place home, it's the local businesses that bring everybody together. When we show up as a community, it can mean big business for local business owners. Money spent in the neighborhood stays in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood.
Alrighty, it's two Zachs diving in to UCLA Penn State. And maybe the most interesting part of this game might be the fact that both hosts are named Zach. So UCLA Penn State. And hey, Seyko, let me tell you, I'm going to be at the Rose Bowl playing a video game challenge as a celebrity guest. So maybe that'll be the most interesting thing, watching people beat me down in college football 26. But more to the X's and O's in this one. UCLA's coming in. New defensive coordinator, second game for him, Kevin Coyle, calling plays. They've already said he's not even going to implement his whole playbook. Then you bring in a new play caller. Tight ends coach Jerry Neuheisel is supposed to be the play caller as Tino Sunseri's out. And then the idea is that Noel Mazzoni will be brought in as an offensive analyst. I'm not sure if that's official just yet, but he's supposed to come in and probably help with the offensive side of the ball. I'm not sure I've seen something so unique where why didn't UCLA make those changes, within the same time period? And just a couple of days before Penn State defense, that seems primed for at least 2 defensive touchdowns, Zach.
Well, and that's just it. So there's 2 parts to this equation. One, UCLA is going to be very disorganized, very clunky, communication issues. And I know there's some veteran players on that team, but still, it's going to all look out of sync, which is prime for Penn State. That's why, you start the show off and you say, okay, hey, there's the worry that Penn State could spiral out of control, but this is literally an opportunity where you almost can't. It's just UCLA is in such a bad spot that I don't even know if an upset is truly a possibility. It's a point.
This would be, I think, the biggest upset in college football history. Like, that's how
it would
bad
be up there. It would be up there.
It would be bigger than App State, Michigan. That's how bad UCLA's look. Because sometimes some of those, 1AA teams or the FCS teams, they're not as bad as UCLA was. Idaho State played UNLV and New Mexico better than UCLA did. Idaho State is a bad FCS team. That's how bad the Bruins have been. And I want to be positive. I try to pump it up, but let's be honest. Can UCLA score first quarter points? They have trouble scoring first quarter points. Those are your scripted plays. So even if Penn State stumbles, at worst, they should win this game by 3 scores.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just it. Penn State may stumble. They probably will because they're not going to come out with the same type of intensity. They're not going to have the same type of energy that they did going into the whiteout. This is a massive letdown spot across the board. But UCLA is also a walking letdown spot, day to day, week to week, hour to hour kind of deal. So when I just look at UCLA from afar, and they make all these systematic changes. It's not like, okay, we're going with a different quarterback. And I do think the offense is at least being tailored to be better set up down the road. But okay, you go from 0 to 1 or 0 to 2, and that's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks. So for Penn State, they just get the benefit that, and is it truly a benefit? Honestly, at the end of the day, I would like somebody to challenge Penn State over these next couple of weeks because you play UCLA, that is in a terrible spot. Northwestern's really not that much better. And then you have Iowa. Okay, Iowa's going to be a test at Kinnick, but I do want Penn State to, as we saw at the non-conference schedule, they weren't really challenged, and now they're kind of going back into a situation where you're not going to be challenged. You're not going to be pressed. You should be after an Oregon game like that because iron sharpens iron, and you need to stay sharp if you want any chance to beat Ohio State and honestly Indiana as well later down the road.
I think the big thing is, can Penn State prove, well, what type of beatdown would it take to prove they're sharp this week, Zach? Would it take the 63-7? Would it take a 56-7? Because even Indiana went out there and beat a top 10 at the time Illinois team by like 50 points or something ridiculous. What's it going to prove for Penn State to get that just everything that's showcasing they can't win the big game. The James Franklins of the world, the Drew Allers, if he goes out, throws for 5 touchdowns against UCLA, does that do anything? Or is it just scoffed at for weeks until they go to Iowa?
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that from the beginning of the season, trying to rationalize, okay, well, it didn't look perfect against Nevada. It didn't look perfect against FIU or Villanova, but it should have. It should have. If Penn State is a true national title contender, sure, you're going to make mistakes here and there. Don't get me wrong. That means that this needs to be a blowout game. Okay? So there's no rationalizing it anymore. Penn State is actually the team that most of us would have believed that they were at the beginning of the season. Then they need to push UCLA out of the building. This should be over by the third quarter. I would say
quarter. Every team has been up by at least 2 to 3 scores in the first half against UCLA. Okay. So I would say
a comfortable lead, but I'm saying you start to cycle the backups, and this needs to be 42-0 at a minimum going into the third quarter. I will allow a garbage time touchdown. I would prefer a shutout for Penn State, but
you won't give me a touchdown? I want a touchdown. I've been beat down too much. I need 2 touchdowns against the fourth string.
A lot of people are upset on the Penn State side of things. So the key here for Penn State is to score points. I'm not really concerned about the defense or what it's going to look like. I know the defense will take care of its side of things, but Penn State's offense has been the issue. It hasn't been defense or a balance or a mix of both. It has been the offense. With all these veteran players, with the continuity in the offensive system, you need to put up points. So even if Penn State's defense does give up some counters, they 2 touchdowns or so, it's not gonna look great. We'll probably try to justify it and see what's going on. But I'm really looking for Penn State's offense to put up 56, maybe you get into the 60s. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's what needs to happen to feel better about this team, particularly the offense.
And you speak about Penn State's offense. You're playing UCLA defense that hasn't forced a turnover. They have no picks. They're not forcing fumbles. The only turnovers that have been because New Mexico dropped the ball on a punt return. That's how they forced turnovers, and they still couldn't take advantage of it. This is a UCLA team that's so bad that when they played the Northwestern quarterback, who was been interception city, he didn't throw a pick. Now, they didn't let him throw the ball, but this is a simple game. Penn State can take the ball out of Drew Aller's hands, and they can run it 30 to 40 times, and they can get a lot of yards. The Bruins did play a lot better in the second half against Northwestern, to where those Wildcats did not get a single point. All that was first half knowledge, so maybe that can bring over to a couple of stops for the Bruins. But Penn State doesn't even need to have a Drew Aller throw to win this game. They can go old school, hand it off 50 times, and still win this by a lot with over 300, 400 rushing yards.
Yeah, they could run the vintage Navy or Army offense, Air Force offense, the military academy schools, and you could win this game decisively. But again, I'm wondering about the mental aspect for Penn State. And that's what we're going to talk more about. Keys to the game, predictions. UCLA's run defense in particular is terrible. It's one of the worst in the country. So what does that mean for the Nittany Lions, who still have the 2 best running backs in all of college football? We're going to talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From the footwork to the breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention, this same energy to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Let me tell you, the seasons are coming, so be prepared for that. And just like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Impossible becomes irrelevant. That's why with Mazda, move and be moved. Now we're going to tell you about Game Time. Maybe you're thinking about getting some last-minute tickets to this game because college football is back. I'm more excited. You're excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energies in the stand, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting those tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. The endless queues, the hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. You're like, I got a cheap ticket. And all of a sudden you're paying $50 more. That's why I use Game Time. and the app can give the advantage back to you, back to me, the fans, and it's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Look at those ticket prices for UCLA Penn State. Those are dropping. If you need any encouragement to fly out, to drive up to this game, go to the Rose Bowl, perfect weather this Saturday, middle of the day. This is when you want to go to the Rose Bowl and see this game. Ticket prices super cheap, at least $60 to $70 cheaper than what I initially looked. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
All right, let's get into keys to the game. We'll give you our final score predictions. Also, any potential breakout players or just guys that we expect to have an MVP caliber performance, win or loss on both sides for Penn State and UCLA, right? So for keys to the game, I've kind of mentioned it throughout the show. It's the mental aspect. It's going to be on coaching, because this is a senior-laden group. This is a veteran-laden group. A lot of third, fourth, fifth-year players. So there's really no excuse to go out and lay an egg if you're Penn State, even though I'm still kind of expecting that. I don't expect this complete 180, the offense, hey, they put up 50, 60 points, this game's out of reach, because there are truly some issues here. If you were having these problems against Villanova, if you're having them against FIU and Nevada, and against Oregon, you had signs of life, but still for 3.5 quarters, it was clunky, it was discombobulated, it was a struggle. I don't expect all of that to be radically changed when you have a cross-country trip like this. If this was a home game and maybe it's a traditional, Penn State's unrivaled, so I don't want to say rival per se, but just a traditional Big Ten team that, hey, they're a little more emotional inspiration. Penn State just doesn't. What's the motivation to beat down UCLA? Not much, because there's not a lot of historical ties here. So I think it's on the coaching. That's the biggest key to keep this team focused with a lot of tunnel vision, because you at least need to show some signs of improvement offensively.
I'm going to say for UCLA, let's get some first quarter points. The Bruins have trailed by 3 scores before they score almost every game. They come out, they're trailing at the end of the first quarter, whether it be 3-0, 10-0, multiple scores generally in the first half. They haven't taken a lead. Even bad teams score on good teams and take that 7-0 lead. You're watching, you can see the score ticker, right, Zach? And you're like, oh, yeah, it's 7-0 UCLA over Penn State. Everybody freaks out, and then by the time the game's over, it's a big margin. UCLA's done that even when they were bad at Chip Kelly at Oklahoma. Bad teams do score in their opening drives with scripts. Let's see that happen. I know that's a lot to put on Jerry Neuheisel and a new offensive coordinator in a new spot as the play caller, but let's get some first quarter points. They have generated almost 130 yards of offense in the first quarter. That's 60 minutes. Think of 60 minutes of football. They're generating 130 yards of offense. That's what the data says. Let's see with the little wrinkles if Nico and the Bruins can actually get themselves a lead, a little confidence, and take all this negative nonsense out of it and have a little fun playing football, even if they lose by a lot.
And that's kind of, I guess, UCLA's benefit here is the element of surprise. If they are making some changes, I know most of the stuff that it's going to be, you're going to have your base, but then some different deviations of the offense, if you will, some changes. I expect a lot more quick passes, because UCLA's biggest problem, it's not, most people would say, it is Nico Iamaleava, because of, the changes and just being more of a distraction than he is. The idea of him is more of a distraction than being a wholesome teammate, if you will. But when I look at the X's and O's, it is the offensive line
dreadful.
Has just, so there's talent in the backfield. There's talent at the quarterback spot. There's talent at the wide receiver spot for UCLA. But when the offensive line is a revolving door for the Bruins, then if you want to look for another key to the game for Penn State, you should be able to get after the quarterback. You should be able to get after Iamaleava with 3 pass rushers and still be able to get home in a timely manner.
Yeah, I think for UCLA, it's can they protect? Really, Penn State is known to be physical up front, and they can dominate the line of scrimmage. That's generally, you go, a lot of cliches across the Big Ten. You need to dominate the trenches, and UCLA has been woeful. They were not that good last year with Eric Bieniemy at the offensive line. They switch offensive line coaches. Now they're on their second offensive coordinator, play caller since Bieniemy of last year. At least this year they'll play Penn State with a starting quarterback, albeit at home. It's just, can the O-line make it respectable? That's the big thing. I think we're hammering the same thing, Zach, because if the O-line shows up, then we can see the Bruins move the ball. Defensively, there's a lot of moving pieces. They've had their struggles, but can the O-line show up and let the Bruins move the ball a little? Otherwise, they might not get past midfield.
I just thought of something fun. Maybe it's not fun in the scheme of things because it's at the expense of both of our quarterbacks, but who is down bad? Who is down worse in this situation? Is it Iamaleava or is it Aller? Both of them have tanked their draft stocks, or their NFL futures are a lot more questionable than what they were going into the season or a year ago to date. I would say that at least Aller still, because of the potential and all of this, Aller's still viewed as a good teammate and somebody that can maybe help your program if you give him the right resources and the right staff around him and the support. Iamaleava seems like that he's just a bad setup wherever he goes.
Yeah, the Nico optics are bad. I've heard great things that he's a solid teammate. It's obviously, it's more what's surrounding Nico than Nico himself.
Yes.
That's the big problem, and that's what I continue to hear. Nico's supposed to be a great kid, and at some point, will he stand up, grow up? Will he develop as a quarterback? You can talk about all the off-the-field stuff, whatever. It's pretty clear he's going to move on. Is it to the NFL draft with a very low ceiling? Is it to another school? I've talked about in Locked On UCLA. That might be Texas Tech. That might be Miami, who might be a more open-ended quarterback situation there. But I think with resources, Nico would be an intriguing option in the portal. Now there's a lot of baggage. And is he going to command $4 million? No, you can't command $4 million like he was in the spring, the allegations. Or does he even get $2 million in the portal? Is it even worth that? He's talented enough to do things that I think Drew Aller can't do. I think that's pretty fair to say. But is there too much nonsense surrounding him, too much hoopla, that if he's playing anywhere close to the state of Tennessee, you're just going to see Orange fans, the orange color come around and just boo Nico? I think Nico is down bad, but has still one more chance at the college level to really rebound his image. I just clearly don't think it'll be at UCLA.
Yeah, at least he gets one more year to salvage something. This is kind of it for Drew
Technically
Aller.
2 years, but we only 1 more year, yeah.
Yeah, right. This is the end of the road for Drew Aller. There's no mulligan. There's no that he has to go to the NFL after the season. So that's a very important point, that Iamaleava could play another season of college football. I don't know what Drew Aller can prove that he's better beyond a doubt. He can meet expectations, maybe slightly surpass, but to totally reinvent himself at this level, that's over with. So I thought it was important to, both QBs are down bad. Who has it worse kind of chatter here. I think that's what Penn State and UCLA have in common, unfortunately. Let's give our final score predictions, breakout players or MVP caliber players in this game. I am going to go with Penn State 35, UCLA 10. I think that Penn State, again, should have more success, but I don't know that we're going to see a total reinvention of the offense after just 1 week. They're struggling. They can make incremental changes, but not something that says, oh yeah, they're going to score. If they couldn't score 60 points against Villanova, they're definitely not going to do it against UCLA with this cross-country trip. Kaytron Allen, I think, will have a big day at running back. And on the defensive side of the football, a Chaz Coleman, Zariah Fisher, or Dennis Sutton, somebody off the edge that's going to be able to get past their respective offensive tackle counterpart for UCLA. So give me Penn State 35-10.
I'm thinking Penn State. I'm hovering between 49-52. I know that's a lot to pick for Penn State's offense to boom, but UCLA's defense has not been that good. They've given up a lot of points to just almost anybody they face. I'm thinking 49-7. I'll give them a little less than 50. Utah ran on them. UNLV ran on them. New Mexico ran right down them. Penn State seems the best suited team. If they want to, they can put 50 points if they want to. I don't think James Franklin might want to at the end of the game. He might want to at the beginning of the game, and then he's like, yeah, let's not do that. But they can get 49 points just by running the ball if they want. So 49-7 is my prediction. Maybe an early UCLA score, but other than that, no.
And that's going to do it for this Locked On crossover. Talking Penn State versus UCLA. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff, 12:30 local time. Broadcast is on CBS. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer of Locked On UCLA. We give you daily coverage for Penn State and UCLA. Thank you to the everydayers. If you're not one, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for those daily conversations. Zach, it was great to talk ball with you, and hopefully we can do this for basketball as well.
Yeah, we'll see. It's basketball season, right? Right.